about the, as some people now call it, invasion of the Nigeria Labour Congress's secretariat. Came through that there had been some invasion there. It looked more like a random occurrence. One thought was going to be again some sort of storm in a teacup, that will fizzle away within a couple of days. But that doesn't seem to be the case right now, because just at about dinner time yesterday, we got to understand that the authorities of the police have now invited the president of the Nigeria Labour Congress, Comrade Ajaero, to answer to certain very hefty allegations bordering on terror financing and some treasonable allegations. These are no child's play, quite frankly, but then we have seen the last few days, particularly for the most part of last week, leaders of the Nigeria Labour Congress coming to condemn, first of all, that invasion, as they call it. And now, with this invitation, which we understand has to happen by 10 o'clock this morning, otherwise the police authorities have said they will be left with no other option than to have an arrest warrant issued on him. But whatever happens, we're here to have the conversation about all of the elements around this development, because it's becoming an expanded issue with every day that passes. We're joined by Global Television's in-house political and security analyst, Professor Ibrahim Abubakar, to help us find context, perspective, and sense in all of this. Prof, it's a delight to have you here again. This is what, some less than 24 hours later. I mean, you were here for Big Talk with Michael Deacon yesterday, but I don't know how much this story shocks you, or on the contrary, how much it doesn't even surprise you. But what are your thoughts about this development?
I am not shocked. The issue is, why at this period of time? Two, the tactical squad, the special tactical squad, and the intelligence response team inviting the president of Nigeria Labour Congress over weighty allegations. Treasonable felony is like, I'm just telling Mr. President, leave the office. I want to occupy the office. In a democracy, one, the person accused is even a civilian. Two, what evidence did you have against him? And if, what collective information did you have? What is the essence of intelligence gathering? Because it's just not to mention an offense against somebody, but did you have enough intelligence gathering? It is something that is defendable. Because we have seen so many cases like this, and at the end of the day, they are swept under the carpet, and you start wondering what has happened. And maybe the police are not looking at their image. Your image is already dented, and you are denting it more by these kind of allegations, because can you prove it? When the man is released tomorrow, what do you tell the public? Because everybody has different opinion. Some will say the police was bought over. Secondly, why the allegation of terrorism financing? If you say terrorism financing, we have been having cases of baddists, kidnappers, terrorists all over the place. If you can actually have these informations all this while, I think those activities will have stopped. So there is more to it than just putting up an allegation against somebody.
I feel strongly that Juma wants to.
I want to ask, of course, Joe Ajaero, his position in our country is a very sensitive one, because he has to do with the National Labour Congress and all of that. But do you think there is a connection somewhere? Let's dot the T's and cross the T's and dot the I's. There's a connection somewhere between Joe Ajaero and these extremist groups of people. If we look at it critically, in a way, in another point of view? Do you think there is a connection somewhere?
A connection between a labor leader and terrorist. I'm trying to figure it out. What could lead to that connection?
Maybe because he's so vocal.
Because Jude Ajaero just fought for wages increment. And are you saying that he has enough finances to also finance terrorism? We have a treasurer in the Nigerian Labour.
But please, let's put, I'm sorry to barge in on your conversation. Let's put this at the back of our minds that fighting for wage increments has a link with end bad governance, has a link with some political heads, claim and unclaim, supporting this particular movement. So let's just put all of this at the back of our minds.
If you look at the end bad government, will that be promoted by the Nigerian Labour Congress? Because I'm looking at the source of financing too. Because if you are saying somebody is financing, that means the person has enough finances in his position, or he has a link to a lot of finances. But will you be able to finance treason? Or in Nigeria today, from the little that the Nigerian Labour Congress has, and would the Nigerian Labour Congress as a whole, because there is a secretary, there is a treasurer, there are other bodies, are all of them game to these allegations? Or you are just inviting one person? Because the invitation is for Jude Ajaero. It's not for the entire body. Because if we are looking, will Jude Ajaero just remove the finances of Nigeria Labour Congress to finance end bad governance or finance terrorists? Or are they telling us that he belongs to another organization who is doing the financing that is not Nigerian, related to Nigerian Labour Congress?
Okay.
If they are telling us that, then he can be invited personally, not through the Nigerian Labour Congress.
Okay.
I need to ask you this. How do we draw a nexus, some sort of connection between the search that law enforcement had carried out in the offices of the Nigeria Labour Congress and this arrest? Recall that the police had told us that, the IG himself had said there was an intel, very vital and sensitive, of a terror kingpin hiding in that office, the Secretariat of the Nigeria Labour Congress, which led to that search in the first instance. Do you think there's a connection between both?
There is, if there is any connection to that, I will ask, was there a valid search warrant from the police?
In the first place?
Yes. Was the search warrant confirmed to have come from an authority, a judiciary authority? If these were not followed, then there is some illegality to it, because you can't just walk into an office and start searching. And when they carried out that search, what was found that was discriminatory? Was there any subject that was illegal found in the secretariat? Because it is an open office, so they will have told us that this and this were found that are illegal. And if those things were not there, there's nothing like accusing anybody for subversive activities.
Comrade Joe Ajaero himself has been under fire, particularly since the 2023 general election. Of course, we know there is, the Nigeria Labour Congress, that's the NLC, and the Labour Party have become some sort of Siamese twin. Some people say that Joe Ajaero as a person is dragging the NLC too much into politics. In the case of Imo, just for perspective, for example, we saw how the Imo state government had even accused them of being partisan rather than leading the Labour Congress, the trade union as we know it. Do you think this is Joe Ajaero overstepping his bounds and beginning to veer into the murky waters of politics?
Well, I will come back to the birth of Labour Party
Right.
as a party, and I want to interrelate them to the Labour Party in UK. The Labour Party in UK is purely a entirely Labour property.
Pursuing the interest of the workers? Oh, okay, you mean the party itself, the Labour Party?
Yes.
Okay.
So the Labour Party here, to me, also belongs to the workers. You can't separate these two things.
They go hand in hand.
They go hand in hand. The Labour Party is for entirely the Nigerian workers. It is for them to accept it or to. So giving it a gap becomes a different scenario. I don't know how you are going to separate them. We either accept that the Labour Party belongs to the Nigerian workers, or we leave it as just a name. And if we can't leave it as a name the moment Labour has been mentioned. So you will not say the president of Labour has no say in the party. It is an error. We have to accept it, that it is an error, because if anything goes wrong with the party, automatically goes wrong with the Labour organization, because the Labour organization are the people that formed the party. Whether through proxy or whatever, maybe they did not understand it when they were forming the party.
So would you say we're following, in Nigeria, for example, stricto sensu, the Labour Party model in the UK? Is that what we're following here? Are we following that?
We are not following that. That is why I said whether it was proxy, we should now understand that.
What the original concept should be.
We should understand that the party belongs to the workers, and they have every right to say, this is what. If you don't belong to the labor union, it's a different ballgame. But when you belong to the labor union, then automatically the party, you are part and parcel of that party. You are contributing to the party. And if you say the head of the labor union is not a party to it, then it is wrong.
I don't know if Juma wants to jump in here.
You know, I spoke to some of my colleagues concerning this particular issue about Joe Ajaero and, of course, the investigation that is ongoing. And some individuals believe that the party, the Labour Party itself, they're not in sync with one another. That some people, in quotes, will say, this is just a mere setup because Joe Ajaero is not following the path at which he should when it comes to when it comes to being a leader in the Labour Party. Some of the individuals, will I say members, have already been bought. Some, not all, but this is just a mess setup because he's not in line with the party's rules, regulations. How true do you think that is?
Well, I wouldn't speak for Ajaero himself, but I'm looking for a wider perspective to the issue. The issue here is Jude Ajaero, the president of the Nigerian Labour Congress, does that extend to the Nigerian Labour Party? And if it extends to the Nigerian Labour Party, then he owns it a duty to also preside over the party's affair. And if the government if the executives or whatever the other opposition or the other parties feel not comfortable with some decisions taken by Labour, then they should voice it out. It has nothing to do with intimidation.
I need to ask you this, just so we're very clear. Right, particularly right from the second tenure of former President Muhammadu Buhari, the term terror financing has started gaining traction, becoming a bit more popular every now and then. I mean, you have a robust background in security analysis. What exactly constitutes terror financing? Because today is Joe Ajaero. We have no idea whose turn it may be tomorrow.
if you look at the templates, in every administration we look for a language to use. And we end that administration with that language, or we look for another language to cover it up. From Boko Haram to terrorism to bandism to kidnapping, we continue to have one name or the other. Now it's terror financing. What do you look at as financing? Financing because I have a handshake, or financing because I know you? We have been talking of financing. At a point, some set of people came, and even the people in government came and said that we know who are financing terrorism. And up to today, nobody has mentioned somebody that this is the person actually financing. I know when the State Security Service came and said they have the list of financiers. Up to today, the list of financiers has not been produced. They have not even mentioned one person. So who are the financiers?
But maybe there was the controversy of whether or not those alleged financiers should be tried behind closed doors. I mean, secret trial. Maybe that cast a shadow of some kind over the entire process. Is that possible?
We are talking of national security issue.
Right.
And when it is a national security issue, it's something that affects everyone. There is no undercover issue when it has come to national security issue. Mostly when you have come that you have, sometimes we just sit down and somebody said, we have security report. If you have a security report, why must that incident happen? It's like 2 people or 3 people planning to rob. And we said they are going to rob First Bank. And as a security man, you have put it that a robbery is going to take place.
That is assuming there's no bank such as First Bank, for example, for the purpose of this conversation.
Yes. And you just say they are going to rob a bank. And a security report has been submitted. And that incident takes place.
So what did you do with the intel?
So what did you do with that report? What happened? Why must that incident take place? Because you already have a report.
Right.
So what did you do? So these are just what we call, most of the training, these people go foreign, and they call it security training or intelligence training. The moment they teach them anything on security propaganda, they come here and utilize it on everything. It becomes propaganda. Yeah, there is a parcel of security that is security propaganda, but you only use security propaganda when you know that this is an incident you cannot contain immediately, and maybe to get to the end of it, you have to do some propaganda. It's not an everyday trade, but here it is everyday trade.
You know, I want to ask a question. Assuming all of this is true and all allegations are being met, assuming, for instance. Now let us look at the public perception when it comes to counterterrorism and, of course, national security. What do you think the perception of the public, can you just give us a breakdown of it with all of these allegations ongoing?
Well, if you say, if the allegations are true, everybody will play safe. Or there is an incident that took place in 1981 during the Metasine. The moment Metasine was arrested, and whatever happened that led to his death, the issue of Metasine went down immediately because the kingpin has already. But when you start looking at issue, you cannot get to the root of it. it escalates more. Because the leaf remains a leaf when it's still on top of the tree. The moment it fell and it withered away. But the moment you remove the root, that is the end of that tree. It has no growth index. So most of the time, we base our mind on the leaves. The branches are there, the stem is there, the root is there. So you have done practically nothing. This is a nation where we have over 200 million people, or about 200 million people. And they cannot tell me that for over 10 years, we have these so-called bandits, kidnappers, and the rest. Are they up to 1 million people?
And yet we've not found the root cause.
We have not found the root cause. And nobody is talking of the root cause. Are they up to 1 million people? So, what is really happening if they are not up to 1 million people?
Prof,
something must be wrong.
It's a no-brainer that when things like this happen, by default, a lot of persons are going to speculate around political motive behind this invitation of Joe Ajaero. But then let's also look at, again, you and I just established how that there's a synergy between the Labour Party and, of course, the Nigeria Labour Congress. As it stands today, do you think from where you stand, given what you know and your analysis of all of the nuances, is there a chance that opposition parties, or maybe an opposition party, is working to break the influence, or if you like, the clouds that Labour Party garnered on account of last year's election, or even going into that election? Because it will appear that the Labour Party, as we now know it, is growing in every leap and bound. Could that be the motive behind all of this hula baloo we're hearing now?
Well, I don't want to preempt anything.
Till after 10 o'clock today, you mean?
Yeah, I don't want to preempt anything, because sometimes you just say, I have a child, I back the child, but I don't know what the child is doing behind
you. That's right.
So I don't want to preempt the security organizations. I also don't want to preempt what the Nigerian Labour Congress has in stock. But I can rightly say it here that the issue that has to do with invitation should be looked into critically. Because when you say a pin down operation, when you are undergoing a pin down operation, you are talking of hideous crime. I cannot see an armed robber going for an operation and I'm allowing that armed robbers to be invited. You cannot see a coup plotter, then you are allowing a coup plotter to be invited.
When you have hard evidence.
Yes. So when it has gone to invitation on case of treasonable felony, then I can raise an eyeball and said, what is this person speaking about? That means you can invite a murderer. You can invite an armed robber. I don't think our security architecture has actually given room for that. What if it was true? And by this morning we are hearing that Joe Ajaero has traveled out of the country. What happens?
Maybe the Nigerian authorities will have to use the help of the Interpol, because they say if it doesn't show up at 10 o'clock today, the next option will be to issue a warrant of arrest. But I know Joe might probably wants to ask a question.
No, but looking at all of these circumstances, I'm just wondering in my head, do you think there's going to be one fair hearing and a transparent, with all of this really, into a transparent investigation when it comes to Joe Ajaero in this process, when we know the controversy surrounding him and, of course, the Labour Party?
There are two things here. Will he compromise his position?
As president of the NLC?
Yes. Will he compromise his position? Would there be a bargain? Would there be a negotiation? Because when you look at it critically, it is, yes, you did it, and these are the evidence, and these are the steps we are taking. Okay, sorry, we know you did not do it, but this is what we want. So would there be a bargain, or would there be any negotiation? Will he sell off, or will he stand? So these are the things you have to weigh. What evidence have they gathered? What intelligence report do they have? What is the defensive mechanisms they have to defend those intelligence? Because it's not just to produce intelligence, but do you have defense? Did the person culpable or not culpable? So on the ground that is not culpable, why the invitation? Is it a miscalculation? When it's culpable, what do you do? Are you taking him in? Are you prosecuting, or you are relaxing? So there are so many things you have to weigh when it comes to this kind of issues, because this is purely security issue.
Let me talk about something again, Prof, that we probably need to weigh now, to use your word. The Nigeria Labour Congress, of course, with its counterpart, the TUC, have been able to cover a lot of grounds regarding being able to negotiate with the federal government. Of course, we know how we came about the 70,000 naira minimum wage issue now. So there's been a lot of grounds covered, mileage in that regard. God forbid a million times, if this invitation of Joe Ajaero were to spiral out of control, and that ultimately leads to maybe workers taking to the streets to protest what they might call the maltreatment, or if you like, the unlawful arrest, or who knows, maybe detention of their president, what would be the implications for Nigeria?
We see it play around in Imo State, when Ajaero has some issues to do with the Imo State government. He was tear gas, he was beaten, and some other things happened. I think the security agencies will have learned from that and will not use that kind of approach.
And that's also speculating now.
Yeah.
Because we're not sure if they learned.
No, we also always believe that they have learned. We should also believe that they have learned. So let's say they have learned from that and will not go that way this time. But my fear is, how many people are going to go with Joe Ajaero to report in the police today?
Maybe aside his lawyer.
Yeah, he can't go with just his lawyer. He will go with his executives. So if he's going there with his executive and his lawyer is important.
Right.
The Nigerian law has spelled it out that a CSO, the civil society organization member, your lawyer must be there when making your statement. So if he's going to write any statement at all, the lawyer must be there. So, and now the invitation is not just him as Ajaero, means that the Nigeria Labour Congress legal team will be there with him, because the invitation was served in the Nigeria Labour Congress Secretariat. Whether he's addressed as president or not addressed as president, that is not it. It was not served in his house. In other words, the invitation served in his bedroom. It was served in the Nigerian Labour Congress Secretariat. So if he's going there, is going with the legal team and the executives of the Nigerian Labour Congress. You know what that means.
I guess we can't be sure what it means until after Joe Ajaero has been
No,
there.
when I said what that means, it's not causing any face-off. But it's going to raise a lot of tension. So are they equipped for that kind of tension? Knowing that we have very narrow way of solving this crisis in Nigeria. And you know, this issue has to do with dispute resolution.
Right.
So how many of them there stand to bring in ideas on dispute resolution and conflict management? So these are the things we have to look at critically.
I think there's so much we need to look at, Prof, with regards to these developments. But again, it's not 10 o'clock yet in West Africa. So all else equal, on the strength of that invitation, in an hour's time thereabouts, I think Mr. Ajaero would have already reported to the police based on that invitation. But we'd like to say a big thank you to you, Professor Ibrahim Abubakar.
Thank you.
Global Television's in-house political and security analyst, for coming to share all of these perspectives with us on the program this morning. Thank you once again.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.